Guys, today I'm going to be showing you how to upgrade the headlights on your 944. So alright guys, the first thing you're going to want is the H4 housings themselves and the bulbs. So this is what I have here in this box. And I'm just going to set these aside for now. So alright, the next thing you want to do is gather a few parts so that way you can build a harness. There's no real point in going to a higher wattage bulb if they're not going to really be that much brighter because there's not enough voltage getting to them. So that's what I have here. All this wiring here and these relays and the plugs, these plugs here, and everything was bought at my local AutoZone. I picked this up at Napa and then I ordered this nylon braided sleeve online. Then of course you're going to need some marine heat shrink, and I bought this at Harbor Freight. I also got this here at Harbor Freight. It's going to help me hold everything in place. And then I have some liquid tape, and what I'm going to do at the end of this is put it around these relays so that way no water can get inside. So now that that's out of the way, let me show you what everything is. Of course, I've already shown you the braided sleeve, and this here is the fuse that we're going to use, and the fuse is sold separately. So I have a 40 amp fuse in here, and this is what I'm going to connect to the alternator. I'll just snip this here, and then I'll connect my two red wires that are going to run to my relays to it. So one side will be the alternator, the other side will be the two wires that run to the relays. And then these are color coded to the original harness here. It's actually brown, but I'm going to have to use black. I don't have any brown wire, but black will be fine. You don't actually have to use the correct colors anyway, but I like to. So that way you can tell the difference between the high beam and the low beam. And then here I've got two relays. They are universal RL44s. And then I have the plugs for those. This is RS40 sockets. Then I have the H4 plugs. These are what you're going to plug your new lights into. And you'll need a few spade connectors like this, so that way you can plug this into the existing headlight harness. And this here is what's going to connect to the alternator. So you just need to measure everything out and then connect it all, and you'll have a harness. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is try and measure everything out. And the way I'm going to do this is I know where my relays are going to be mounted, and so I'm just going to take a wire like this and run it over to where I want my relays to be. So if I trim this here, then I would just make my yellow and white wires this long. And with this though, I'm going to actually want it a little bit longer, since I'll go ahead and make the grounds. The grounds are going to actually run down here, and they'll be about 8 inches longer than the yellow and white wires. So if I take this and add about 8 inches, which would be about right there, I'll go ahead and trim it. Then I'll fold this right here. And that's how long my yellow and white wires will be. And then this will be my ground wire. I'm going to do the same thing here for the other headlight. It doesn't matter if it's a little long. You'd rather have longer wires than shorter wires, and again you're going to do about 8 inches on this, which would be about right here. this here will be my driver's side headlight wiring. And then finally, I'm going to need 2 grounds to power the relays. That should be it right there, and they can be the same length. And there you go. So alright guys, I realize it may be kind of hard to see what's going on in this video, so I made a diagram and I'm going to put it up here now so that way you can see it and kind of follow along. Now this is just a reference to give you an idea. I don't always follow this diagram because by now I make them by memory. So sometimes I put the ground on 85, sometimes I put it on 86. Either way you do it, it's completely fine. Alright, now that I have these wires trimmed, I'm going to set them aside. And I'm going to use these 2 longer ones here as a guide for how long to trim my yellow and white wires. So here are the wires that are going to run to my driver's side headlight. I'll do the passenger side wiring. There you go. So next I'm going to open up the headlight socket. Use a tool like this to remove the spade terminals inside. Once those are out, you're going to just have the socket like that. And I'm going to do the passenger side first. Alright, and now I have the passenger side headlight socket completed. The next thing I need to do is start on the driver's side. So alright, I have both of the headlight plugs finished now, and I cut the sleeving a little bit long. And you may have noticed that I was also using the torch. It just makes it a little bit quicker. My soldering iron doesn't really get that hot, so I'm just working with what I have. You can do it with the torch, just make sure you keep it low, and it makes it much faster in my opinion. But anyway, now I'm going to start installing the relays. So alright, the next thing I need to do is connect all this wiring to these relay sockets. So I'll show you guys how to do that. This wire here is not required for these relays. And again, with these, you want to take your tool and remove the terminals. Now you can just connect to these, but I like to make these look as clean as possible. So I remove these and install my own terminals, so that way I don't have any splices in the wiring. So there you go. Again, you're going to have a plug that looks like that here. And you'll do the same to this one. Again, you don't need this red wire. And then there you go. So I'm going to go ahead and connect this here. I'm going to want a loop connector like this one. What you can do here is, this side I'm going to have running from the alternator, and this side is going to run to the relay. So I can actually cut this one as short as I'd like. Do that one about right there. So that way you have a little bit more line running to the alternator. So alright, I now have this completed. As I mentioned, this connects to the alternator and then it runs to this 40 amp fuse here. The fuse is sold separately, so you'll need to make sure to buy one. And then it connects to two wires that are going to deliver the power to the relay and then on to the headlights. So alright, I now have the power that runs to the relays, and then that power is going to go on to the headlights. So the next thing I need to do is make the wiring that's going to actuate the relay. So this is going to plug into the stock headlight harness and then run to the relays, and then that will also be grounded. But for now, I'm going to do these, and you will need this type of terminal. We'll put this on here, and then as I mentioned, this will go into the stock harness. These little plastic caps just pull right off. Alright, now that I have this completed, the next thing I need to do is make the grounds for the relays. Alright, now that I have the ground wires completed, I'm going to start assembling these. So I'm going to take my relay here. Going to sit it in here so that way I have a good idea of the way they go. And these sockets here actually connect together. So if you have one or more like I do here, then you can slide them together and lock them like that. So this is basically how my relays are going to sit in there. Alright, now that I have the grounds in, the next thing I'm going to do is start trimming some of the sleeving back so that way I can install the rest of these wires here. Once you have these completed, they're going to go in 86, which is directly across from 85 here on the outside, and you'll have to decide whether you want this one to be your high beam or your low beam. I'm going to have this one as my low beam, so that's going to be the white wire here. And then of course this will be my high beam, so it'd be the yellow wire. And there you go. So this here is how it should look once you have that completed. Next we'll just have to install the wires for the headlights and the wires coming from the alternator. So alright, while I was waiting for the phone to charge, I went ahead and made these and I trimmed the wiring here. So as you can see, I actually have about an extra foot of ground, and that's going to run down with the grounds here and go to the grounding point that's near the headlights. Once these are trimmed, you want to make sure that you still have plenty enough. Cut everything longer than what you actually need, so that way if you have to trim it down, it's fine. You don't want to end up with wiring that's too short. But these here are actually going to connect headlights together like this. So you'll have your two yellow wires soldered together here, and then this third one here that's going to actually attach to the relay. Now the reason why I do this is not only does it look cleaner, but you can't just put a spade terminal on here and plug it in because it doesn't have enough room in here. So these will go to the 87 terminal here when finished, and they will look like this. And then I'm going to come back with some heat shrink and cover this all up and make it look great. Alright, so here's how everything's going to look once you have everything connected. You can see my two wires here that run to the headlights from each harness, and then these continue on to terminal 87. I'm going to go ahead and get this all cleaned up. I'll have to trim my sleeve here and put some heat shrink on. Then we can connect this here to terminal 30 and we'll be just about finished. Alright, so this is my harness so far. The only thing left to do is put the spade terminals on these two red wires here, and I'll be just about finished. So alright, now that I'm done with this, I'll go ahead and put it with the rest of the harness. As you can see here, I have all the sleeving running up to the same point, so that way everything looks nice and uniform. All of these wires do connect into the socket here. So what I'll do now is just take a big piece of heat shrink and run it around all the wires, just to make sure that the harness looks nice. Since they're all going to the same point, you see, I can cover up where my grounds for the headlights loop and then go back into the other harness. And I can also cover up this here where I had to solder those wires together. And now it's just one nice looking harness. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and connect everything back up. I had to remove this socket to be able to put the heat shrink on here. So here, relay, and it's going to sit like this. So up here in the front, we're going to have 30, which is our red wire here. Other one over here, so we're going to have 30 again, so we'll put our red wire on this one. Make sure you have your tabs pulled up. Alright, so these are the wires that actuate the headlights, and we're going to put this one here, 86. White one in 86 on this side. We have our grounds. Our grounds are going on 85. Finally, we have these wires here to go to 87, so the white wire on this one. Make sure I turn correctly. So alright, I have my harness complete now, and you can see that my red wires that come from the alternator and through the fuse are connected to 30 here on the front of the relays. On 85, you can see the black wire is our ground, and this is going to connect to the ground point next to the headlights. And then on 86, you're going to connect the wires to the headlight harness. So you'll have one relay for high beam and one for low beam. And then on 87 back here, these wires are going to run to the headlights themselves. So I have the plug here for the driver's side and one for the passenger side. Alright, so today I'm going to be installing the harness. First you'll want to disconnect the battery. I'm going to put the relays down here. I'm going to run this over here behind this hose to the alternator. It's going to connect on the back here. Next we'll take our ground, and it's going to connect to this ground point right here. This is going to connect to the stock harness, and then this one here is the plug for the driver's headlight, and then this one here is for the passenger headlight. So once you have your power and your ground hooked up, then you'll want to remove the covers on your headlights. And to do that, you'll need to raise the headlight some so that way you can access the screws. So then you'll see screws here, here, and here, and you need to remove those. And you can remove this cover here. So then you'll remove the stock wiring here from the back of the bulb. You'll plug in your new harness. And using this plug here, yellow wire to this yellow wire here, and then the white one to this white wire, like that. And here's how everything's going to look once you have it installed. So alright, the next thing I need to do is install the new lights, and with the battery disconnected you can just turn the motor until it lifts the lights. I'm going to speed through this, but if you'd like to see a more detailed video on how to replace the housings, then I'll post a link on the screen right now for you to check that out. So alright, the headlight harness works perfectly and I have the new headlights in. The only thing I like to do at this point is remove the relays one more time, and you can see that there is a seam here. I like to take some of this liquid electrical tape and go around the edge here just to make sure that no moisture can get in there and destroy the relay. I'll let these dry for about 30 minutes and they're ready to go back in now. And that's gonna do it. So alright guys, that's how you upgrade the headlights on your 944. I started out building a harness here, and then I installed new H4 lights, which are much brighter than the stock sealed beam, so I think the owner of this car is going to be very happy with those. But anyway guys, that's just about going to do it for this episode. Come check us out on Facebook. I'll put a link in the description below. Also be sure to like and subscribe. I try and upload videos every week. And so I want to thank everyone who donates to my Patreon, because making videos every week can be very difficult and expensive. So thank you guys for that. But anyway, for now, that's going to do it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.